Selling my Tuscadero pink Rubicon 392 was the biggest mistake that I have ever made, but I have corrected that mistake. Before we go over how I corrected that mistake, I want to go over what happened with the previous Rubicon. At the end of last year, I wanted to start a new long-term test series on the channel, and I needed money to fund that, and so I sold my Rubicon 392 to fund that. I thought it was a smart business decision. I was correct on that, because taking the 392 and buying this Toyota has benefited the channel a massive amount when it comes to viewership and subscribers. But for me personally, as a car enthusiast, it killed me inside because I absolutely love Wranglers and I love the V8 Wrangler. It is one of the coolest vehicles ever produced. And so I traded this and the Ineos Grenadier for that beauty at the end of the driveway. Now, the only reason why this is still at my house and not at the dealership on the used car line is because I have to swap out the tires before I drop it off, which will happen tomorrow. So I guess this will officially be the last time you see this in a video. But anyways, let's head over to the vehicle that isn't powered by some stupid hybrid turbo 4-cylinder. Yes, I did in fact go for another 392. I cannot get enough of this powertrain. Frankly, all of the other Wrangler powertrains are just completely underwhelming. This is the only way to go, of course, if you can afford it. And I don't care what anyone says in the YouTube comments, this is by far one of the coolest off-road vehicles ever produced. And I will post a full review on my particular Rubicon 392 so I can show you guys the features on it. But the gist of this car is the huge V8 that produces almost 500 horsepower. This has 35-inch tall tires from the factory, a million inches of ground clearance, the best angles when it comes to an off-road vehicle in the car industry. And it has lockers front and rear. This has everything you could want as an off-road enthusiast. And unlike most modern SUVs, the seats actually fold mostly flat in the Wrangler. The seats not folding flat whatsoever in the 250 Land Cruiser and in the Grenadier was something that upset me all the time because it made putting larger items in the back of both those vehicles a pain. And the Land Cruiser, obviously with the hybrid battery, that was an extra pain. But I'll save the rest of the features for the full-length review on this Rubicon. So now let's talk about the plans for the channel, and then let's talk about the plans for this Rubicon, because I'm going to be doing something with this vehicle that I have never done with any vehicle on the channel before. When it comes to channel plans, this 100% replaces the Lexus LX 700h Overtrail. I had fully intended on doing a long-term review series with the Lexus LX. I wanted to see if Toyota's hybrid V6 was actually going to be reliable long-term. I wanted to put, 200,000 miles on that powertrain. But the person that I was speaking with, and I'm not going to name any names because I just don't think that that's a nice thing to do. Anyways, the person that I was speaking with just kind of disappeared. Now, I don't know if our communications got severed in some way, but my personal guess is the 250 is why I didn't receive any further communications. I have been very critical of the 250 Land Cruiser, not because I'm trying to say that it's a piece of junk, but because I hope that Toyota takes what I'm saying seriously, because it's what a lot of people want for this car, and they make changes to make this a better vehicle overall. However, when you title a video, "The Worst Toyota I've Ever Owned," which that title was completely factual, that is in fact the worst Toyota I've ever owned, well, I think it means that if you're trying to buy a vehicle from that manufacturer, they're probably not going to want to sell you a vehicle anymore. Again, there is no official statement on that. I haven't heard anything. That is just my personal guess as to why the person I was talking with just kind of randomly disappeared. It's one of those things that I'll never know, and so I'll just have to kind of guess till the end of time. But I am completely okay with this outcome because I am finally going to do my dream build for this 392. I'm not huge into modifying vehicles. I typically just like to add aftermarket tires to the vehicles to maximize traction performance. But Wranglers out of the box kind of suck, and the Extreme Recons really suck. Not in terms of the capability, but in terms of how they drive. And so I am going to add a bunch of modifications to this vehicle to massively improve its driving performance. Now the first change is going to be the bumper. I am going to go with AEV's bumper. Now the factory steel bumper is actually really solid and it has a winch integrated already, but AEV's boron steel is so much better. It is way more durable and it looks cooler. With that, I am also going to be upsizing to 37-inch tall tires. I'm going to go with mud terrain tires. I'm going to do the KM3s. I have actually never ran a mud terrain tire on any of my vehicles. I've always done all-terrain tires because that's what most people purchase. But I want to try out a mud terrain tire to see what it's like to actually live with, so I can let you guys know if it's worth going for, because they're very expensive. Now the next item that I'll be adding is the steering stabilizer. This also comes from AEV. I'm also going to add the springs that they have for the 392, and I'm going with the 8100 series shocks from Bilstein that AEV has kitted out for these 392s. I have driven a bunch of Wranglers with AEV's kits with the 5100 series and the 8100 series, and either way, it massively improves the handling of the Wrangler. It takes the Wrangler from being one of the sloppiest vehicles on road to basically handling like a sports car. And then when it comes to off-road performance, it's way more controllable and way more comfortable compared to stock. So with these modifications, the Wrangler is going to look a whole lot cooler and have a whole lot more capability. But wait, there's more. I'm also adding the rear bumper that AEV has. It actually removes Jeep's reinforced tire carrier for a better unit that hooks into the frame, so it's way more stable. And this tire carrier can technically work with a 37, but AEV's unit is going to be a lot better with a 37-inch tall tire. Especially considering I'm going to be taking this off-road a bunch, going over very rough terrain, so having something that's hooked up into the frame is just going to be a lot more durable over the long term. Now this kit also comes with extra gas storage as well that goes around the tire. I think it's about 10 gallons. And speaking of gas storage, I plan on adding a Long Range America fuel tank to this. I haven't reached out to them quite yet. I'm going to get the AEV stuff put on first, and then after that's done, then I'll be looking into getting a fuel tank. I've absolutely loved the Long Range America fuel tank that I have on my Land Cruiser. Not sponsored by them, but maybe we'll get a sponsorship after these two builds, we'll see. Before we go over the last modification that I'll be adding, I do want to give a shout out to the Dodge Ram and Sandy. I actually worked at the Dodge Ram and Sandy from 2017 until just before the end of 2019, and so I actually find it very fitting that the last new vehicle I buy for a very long time is from the dealership that I used to work at, but I really appreciate their help. My friend Ryan, that's the used car manager, is the one that put all of this together. If he didn't do all the work that he did, this deal would have never happened. And so they actually have, I think, 3 of these final editions left. So if you happen to be interested in one of these Wranglers or just any Dodge Rams, Jeeps, and Chryslers, I cannot talk today, just reach out to them. I review cars at the dealership all the time. You guys know that. They're a great dealership. I bought from them, obviously, so definitely reach out to them. Now the final modification with the build is going to be the exhaust system. My first 392 had an exhaust from AWE. I'm going to be going with AWE again. I absolutely loved the performance and the fitment of that exhaust system. Unlike the stock exhaust, you don't have the massive muffler, and this stock exhaust actually sits crooked as well, so it's not crooked too. So basically AWE's exhaust system tucks up everything a little bit tighter, so then you have a better departure angle. It sounds a whole lot better than stock, and it just looks so much better because the stock exhaust having the giant muffler and being crooked is just one of the ugliest things I've ever seen on a performance vehicle like this. Oh, and I almost forgot, I don't really consider this too much of a mod, but I will be doing satin PPF with this, which I think is going to go really well with the 41 color. If you do a lot of off-roading like I do, the satin PPF is 100% worth it. It makes the vehicle look so much cooler, and it protects the paint so it looks like new for years to come. I'm not sponsored by them in any way, but I've been using Steck for my satin PPF for years. I really like the finish that they have because if there is metallic flake in the paint, it still shows through with the PPF. The 41 doesn't have any metallic flake, but the 200 series and the 250 do have some metallic flake in their paint, and you can still see it, which is cool. And I have almost everything already ordered, and so this build will actually not take all that long to complete. I imagine we'll be able to have it done within the next few weeks. This does mean that I do not have any plans of taking this off-road in stock form. I did plenty of off-roading with my stock 2022, and I actually had a 2024 as a demo for a week, and I took that off-road as well. So those videos, you guys can just look them up. If you ever want to see any of my videos, just type in Ben Hardy and then whatever car you're looking for. YouTube search is really good. It'll pop right up. But anyways, I've done plenty of off-roading with this in stock form. I love the articulation, love the ground clearance. Do not like the suspension, and so once that is fixed, then I'll have plenty of off-roading to show you guys with the AEV kit. And the thing that I really like about this build is that it is very relatable for regular people. You do not have to buy a 392 to have similar performance to what I'm going to have off-road. You can do the AEV kit on a V6 Wrangler, you can do it on a 2.0 turbo, you can do it on a 4xe. They have custom springs and shock tuning for every single engine option on the Wrangler. And like I said, the stock elements like the bumpers on this are more than adequate. So if you just wanted to take a Rubicon with the V6, for example, and put 37s on it and then AEV's kit, I mean, I think you could be all in after installation, everything like $5,000, maybe $6,000. Tires are getting really expensive nowadays, which makes things a little bit harder. But yeah, $5,000, $6,000, that is not that much when it comes to a build on a Wrangler. And so I do think that although I'm going all out, a lot of elements on the build that I'm doing are very relatable for you guys because you can get it on different versions of the Wrangler that are more affordable. You can even do that on like a Willys, for example, if you wanted to go even lower down on the totem pole within the Wrangler lineup. So let me know your thoughts on the new 392. I think you guys will really enjoy the series, and I'm sure that I'll get a lot of hate because people say that the Toyota or the Ineos would have been more reliable. I didn't really have any issues with my last 392. The steering overheated every so often, but other than that, it was actually very reliable. And so if it's unreliable, that'll be good content for you guys, but I don't think I'm gonna have a lot of issues with this thing.